Hi everybody, and welcome to my attempt at building a home lab. This is a channel I've thought about making for a little while now, and really what I want to do is just highlight how to do plant tissue culture. It's a topic that I'm really passionate about. I love plants. I've been growing plants for years, and I have started putting them into attempts at putting them into tissue culture. And I really wanted to start this channel, I mean, mostly for myself. I don't really expect a lot of people to watch this, but if a couple of people get something out of it, I think that's awesome. There are a couple of channels that already on YouTube that talk about these same topics, but I've found them to not be what I needed to really understand this field and do things well. It took a lot of trial and error for me to adopt things that I learned from other videos. So I wanted to create a channel that talks about what I've done, what I've found that works, and hopefully do things in a little bit more of a systematic way so that it's easier for people to follow and copy what I'm doing. Today, and for the first few videos, we're going to talk about some more basic concepts. So I wanted to start with sterility, aseptic technique, and what good practices look like. So we'll start with some basic stuff, some equipment. So this is a fairly poor excuse for a laminar flow hood. Laminar flow hood works by taking air in here and blowing it through a filter, very strong filter, so that the air comes out here, creating negative pressure. So, or positive pressure rather. So the pressure inside here is pushing, inside the cabinet is pushing air out, and that keeps contaminants, bacteria, spores, etc. from getting in to where you're working. So this is a really cheap version that I bought on Etsy for a couple $100s. Professional grade flow hoods are often in the thousands of dollars, so this is the best that I could afford with what I'm working on. And you can see the name of the Etsy store here, In Vitro Garden Supply. So I'll get into how we work in a flow hood in a minute, but a couple of other things that are important to have. So first you can see I have a lab coat on. This is partially to protect me, but actually it's more so to protect what I'm working on from contaminants. So I've got these nice sleeves that button, you can see the button here. So these button, and the buttons will help kind of protect bacteria or skin flakes, things like that, from getting from my arms into what I'm working on. Usually you want to wear long pants and sleeves and socks. Really you want to wear shoes, but I'm not wearing shoes right now. And you'll see me often wear just shorts. This is more for your own protection, so if you're working with more caustic or dangerous chemicals, it is a good idea to wear long pants and shoes. Also have glasses, just cheap little lab goggles. These are, again, to protect your eyes, especially if you're working with things like bleach or acids or strong bases that could get in your eyes and cause problems. And then I use just a very basic surgical mask. This is less so to protect me, more to protect what I'm working on from getting anything from my breath into the flow hood. So you don't want to accidentally breathe kind of like your contaminants into the flow hood. So now when we're working in a flow hood, we also need to make sure that all of the things we're working with are sterile. So this is called a microbead sterilizer. It is basically a big heating element with these beads in the middle. These are little glass beads, and when you turn the machine on, you can see that it has a little temperature thing here in Celsius. So it's currently 25 degrees Celsius. We can turn it on, change the temperature. I usually aim for 230 degrees. So we're gonna leave that here and it's gonna start heating up. So here in a second, you'll see it's now running, and it's going to increase this temperature all the way up to 230 degrees. This takes a while. Once it's at temperature, we have our forceps here. You can get these on Amazon for like $5 or $10. And what we're going to do is we put this in here like this. And when we leave the forceps in here when the temperature is hot, it actually sterilizes the working end here so that you can mess with things without getting contamination. And that's really what plant tissue culture and all types of tissue culture are about, is limiting contamination, because contaminants will grow faster than your plants and they will take over and kill a culture. The last thing I'll talk about before getting into actually sterilizing is alcohol. So I use denatured lab grade alcohol. I put it into the spray bottle, and you can use it to sterilize your solutions, or your working surfaces rather. So to do this, you just spray a lot. So just spray a couple of times, rub it in, and you're good to go. I usually like to wear gloves while I work. I wear gloves for a couple of reasons. One, I think it's a little bit safer. If you're working with dangerous chemicals, it provides a barrier between those chemicals and your hands. And also, your hands are extremely dirty. Even if you clean them off, even if you wash them with warm soap and water, if you spray them with alcohol, there are microorganisms that grow in your hands constantly. Not all of them are going to die or come off when you spray them down with alcohol. Wearing gloves, nitrile gloves, these are like $5 for 50 gloves at your local grocery store. So we'll go a long way towards keeping those contaminants out of your systems. So we are going to put on our gloves, spray down. The first time I spray down, I usually like to spritz up my arm a little bit as well, just to keep the jacket clean. And now we're ready to work. Usually it's a good idea to let the gloves dry off a little bit before you really start getting in there, but I personally don't do that most of the time, and so far haven't really had any issues. So now we're going to start working in the flow hood. We're going to sterilize the inside of this, clean it off, turn on the flow, and then we can start working. So the first thing we're going to do is unclip here and here, and we're going to take off the lid, and then we're going to turn the flow on. So now you should be able to hear it's pulling air into the flow hood, and that air is going to be pushed out. And you can even see this like that. So how do we clean a flow hood? To clean a flow hood, we want to basically remove any contaminants that have grown on the surface since the last time we turned it on. So the way we're going to do that, anytime it's been more than a few seconds with your hands out in the open, you're going to want to spray them down with alcohol again. So we're going to spray, wipe that down, and now we're going to take a little wipe. These are basically paper towels. Spritz it down with alcohol, and now we're going to clean the inside surface like this. Always start with the top where the filter is, because the filter is blowing air down from the top. So if you start by cleaning that surface off, then it's blowing cleaner air out as you're going. So I took my hands out, I'm going to spray them down again. I'm going to spray this, clean them off again. Now I have some pipette tips in here, so I'm going to wipe down this box as well. And now I'm going to start by wiping down the bottom and the back. And I usually wipe down the bottom a couple of times because that's where your main working surface is going to be. We'll grab some more wipes. Usually one wipe per side because the wipe will, the alcohol on the wipe will dry, and because it's accumulating other contaminants on it as you're going. And because I have a small crappy flow hood, I use one hand to hold it in place while I work. And we also want to work back to front for the most part. So the front of the hood is going to be the dirtiest part, always, because it has the widest opening and it's where air from the outside world is getting in without a filter. So regardless of what side you clean first, you always want to clean that side in a back to front kind of way. Okay, and then the last thing I do is spray down, if you can see it, the area right in front of the hood, just in case I have things that I'm working with that I can put in front of them. It also keeps my arms a little bit cleaner. So spray that down a few times, wipe, and then I bring the flow hood to just in front of where I wiped. So now we're ready to work. Wipe down our hands again. Now you can have your hands in here and be reasonably sterile. So there you have it. That's a basic way to clean laminar flow hood, some PPE, personal protective equipment, which partially protects you. Honestly, I think even the more important part, especially if you're doing just basic home tissue culture, is protecting what you have in the flow hood, what you're actually working on, from getting contaminated from the things that are on your body and around in your room. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.